Project 8-2 covers starting up of services for a Linux system. There are two main startup routines in Linux, System 5 and System D. System 5 is going out of style. System D is recently, in the last year to 2 years, become popular and has been released with all the newest editions of Linux. So some of the commands they talk about in 8-2, like the check config command, will start to get outdated. It'll still be relevant for the next 8 years or so, but it'll increasingly get further and further dated and depreciated, or that you won't use it as much. So that is the check config command, starting around step 7, where you list what run levels a service starts up in. And then step 8 has you set the levels, either 0 through 6, and the service name for what it starts up in. The new command is system control. Some of its main usages, you don't have to specify which run level a service starts in. You can use the enable or disable command followed by the service name. And optionally, you can put .service, and you will see that in the steps. But the .service I've found is typically an optional. You don't have to put that. Also, a system control is restarting or starting or stopping a service. So you have a start or stop or restart, and some services have a status that you can put, and then the service name, and then optionally the service at the end. Of course, the service name is replaced with whatever service it is. It may be like HTTPD for a web server, SSHD for a remote console server. And the other system control that's normally used would be isolate. This is for switching to different targets for System D. You have a multi-user target and a graphical target. So most of the time you will either type in multi-user.target or graphical.target. Those will be the only two targets that you typically use with that. So this command doesn't look very complicated. It's got fairly straightforward syntax, and just note the pipe symbols in OR, meaning you only type one of these at a time. So system control start, and then service name, or system control stop, and then service name. You wouldn't put all of them and use the pipes in there. And one other thing the system control can do, it can show you all the services that are installed into the system with the -A. Of course, the list may be so long that you need to pipe it to less or pipe it to grep and search for something, as in step 14 in the lab. Now let's go and look into Linux. We're logged into TTY2 as root, and they want us to look at the init tab file. This file is kind of a placeholder for the old System 5. It's going to tell us that it's no longer used, and you need to go look at lib system d system for different services and stuff, and what targets to create. It also tells you how to set the default target. Normally in older versions, anything older than Ubuntu 15 or CentOS 7, and there's a lot of servers out there that are older versions, because these just come out this year, you would use the init tab file that we're in and change one line in here from, say, 3 or 5 to change run level to 3 or 5. You can read about those in your textbook. But with this new system, we'll look under user lib systemd, and the system folder. And these are all of our services and targets, so all lumped together into one area. You normally don't have to go in here and mess with these too much. The only thing that you might want to do is use that link command and change the default target to multi-user instead of graphical if you're going to run a server and you accidentally installed a full graphical interface and you don't want it to come up in subsequent reboots. We also look at an older style etc rc.d. So this is the old System 5. There's still some legacy systems or services that install and use System 5. So really they're both sort of running on this server. Systemd kind of looks in both places and simulates a System 5 setup. So we have all our different run levels from 0 to 6. Most common run levels are 3 and 5. 1 for text mode and 5 is for graphical. 0 is for shutting down the system. 6 is for a reboot. So you can look at the chart in your book. But this is going away, and as far as I can see, all distributions are moving away from this. So we do a check config -- list net console, and we see that this particular service is off on all run levels. To turn it on with the check config command, again, legacy command, this will not be used very much in the future. Say we want it to be on in level 2 and 3. Level 2 is not really used for anything except for Ubuntu. They do things kind of odd. Normally it's either 3 or 5. 2 and 4 are typically never used. And then net console. And then I'm going to use the list command again. It doesn't say that, but I'm going to go ahead and use the list command again. And I forgot to type something. Let me hit the up arrow key a couple of times. I forgot to put on at the end of the level command. So it's a good thing I did that. I'll hit the up arrow key a couple of times and relist net console. And notice that it is on for 2 and 3. I'll also look into the etc rc.d, and if we put brackets 2, 3, it's going to look in both folders, rc2 and rc3.d. It shows the contents of both. We see that net console is in there with an S at the beginning, saying it will start the service when the computer starts. Now we move on to changing run levels. Normally I'd use the system CTL on a CentOS 7 or any systemd computer, but some of the old commands are still there and mapped to the system control command. So people that's learned Linux in the past, they will likely want to try old commands, and so they'll still work. Init space 3 or tel init 3 will switch to run level 3, and if we hit enter, we now are in a multi-user, extended multi-user. Multi-user is actually 2, extended multi-user is 3. If I tried to do Control Alt F1, Control Alt F3 or F4, notice the graphical screen is no longer there. So Control Alt F1, the graphics is gone. Okay, so they want us to be in TTY1 and log in as root and pass 1, 2, 3, 4. In reality, the init3 run the system CTL command isolate multi-user target. So when we type init3, it didn't really run init3. That's for the old System 5 style. It actually executed this command. So it translated it for us automatically. Now if I type run level, it shows me that previously I was in run level 5. That is the first number. And it shows me currently I am in run level 3. Now if I type init space 1, it'll do systemctl isolate rescue.target. Here I'll log in as root. Notice it doesn't ask me for a username because we're in single mode, only one user, so root's the only account available. So now we logged into root. We run level, and it should say 3 space 1 because we were in 3 and now we're in run level 1. And we'll do a system control isolate, which is actually what's been running in the background this whole time. And we're going to switch back to graphical target. And that switches to run level 5, which brings, of course, the graphics back up. We could have typed init space 5. Now if I try to do my Control-Alt F2, it's not going to work for me. For some reason, jumping through all these hoops, it lost the terminals. So you may have to hit the power button and restart at this point. Okay, my system is restarted. Now I'm going to try the Control-Alt F2, and it brings me to the login screen. So we'll go back in as root, and we'll use the system control command again, and look at all services. Actually, we're going to search for the list of services. So we're going to pipe it to grep, which is the search command in Linux. crond.service. It tells me it's loaded, active, running. So since it's running, we'll do a system control again. Restart. I'm just going to try cron d without the .service and see if it works. It looks like it did. I'll go ahead and put the .service on the end. Same output. So you can optionally put .service or not when restarting a background service. So now it wants us to disable the cron d from starting. So very simple, just issue the disable command and cron d. So it removes that from the multi-user target. And it will not start on the next reboot. Now they want us to re-enable. I'm going to hit my up arrow key and change disable to enable, so the cron service is reinitialized. Now they want us to use the legacy command called service, the service name, net console. It could simply be cron d also, or any of the services, and the word start. So that is legacy. It says it actually runs the system control command. So in reality, in the background, systemctl start net console was run. But they fixed it for anybody that's just coming from the older style startup, that if they're using the old commands, it's still going to work. At some point in the future, those commands will likely be removed from the systems. So I want you to take a screenshot. It should look very similar to mine. It shows the net console is started with an OK. And then I want you to power off your CentOS and boot up into Ubuntu server for the next lab.